folks, Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Covering the blog post we want to share with you, of course, review the latest in social media and technology. This is a versus comparison we're going to be doing, and we've been doing a number of them is review all the latest, the coolest phones from all the phone makers out there in mobile phone land. So at least all the popular ones, we should say. So anyway, this will be another one we'll be doing. Be sure to follow our bases on YouTube and follow us on thechrisvossshow.com for all the things that we do, and get the latest on all of our comparisons too. So this is going to be a comparison between the AT&T iPhone 5 and the HTC One X. Both are AT&T network phones. This is my personal AT&T phone. This AT&T phone is provided by AT&T. Be sure to see them at amzn.to. You can see all the latest and cool stuff that they have on their website. We've been very impressed with both phones, and we've used the One X for some time. We really like it. It's very enjoyable to use. Love the big screen on it and all that good stuff. So let's do the comparison between these two phones and see how they compare to one another and turn out. The One X has been very popular and very fast phone. So we're going to take a look at the Apple 5 specs here. On the Apple 5 specs, you're looking at runs on the iOS 6 iPhone software OS, if you will. 4.87 in height, 2.31 in width, and 0.30 in thickness. The weight is 3.95 ounces, 4-inch display, 640 by 1136 pixels, and 326 ppi. And it comes with a capacitive multi-touch screen, and will run for about 225 hours of standby. Its talk time on 3G is about 8 hours, has a capacity of 1440 milliamps on the battery there. So let's talk about the hardware. The hardware is an A6 chip in it. Has a very specialized chip where the gigahertz don't really belie what the true speed is of the chip. You have to go through a benchmarking to really get to it. It's built on an ARM7 architecture that basically they've redesigned it, re-innovated, Apple has, and made it some of the most fastest thing they've ever seen out of that build. So it comes with a dual-core processor, which gives you a gigahertz of speed, a little bit over a gigahertz of speed, gigabytes of memory, has built-in storage of 16, 32, or 64, depending upon which model you buy. Has an 8 megapixel back camera, 1.2 megapixel forward-facing camera. The back camera records at 1080p HD, 30 frames per second. It's a great little phone, and of course now it has a little bit taller screen than the old iPhone 4 and iPhone 4S. Let's talk about the HTC One X. The HTC One X is 5.3 inches by 2.75 by 0.38, so it's a little thicker than the iPhone 5. It's got a weight of 4.75 ounces. Talk time is about 510 minutes. Standby is 12.6 days. It's got an 1800 milliamp battery in it, which is a little bit bigger than the iPhone. Resolution is 720 by 1280, which is your true HD in 720 format. 4.7 diagonal. It's Super LCD screen that's on it. It runs off the Android platform, version 4.03, which this one is updated to, and it also runs off of HTC Sense 4. The processor on this is a Qualcomm 1.5 Snapdragon S4 dual core, and let's see, the memory on it is 16 gigabytes of internal memory raw hardware, 12.1 gigabytes internal storage, and 1 gigabytes of RAM. Sometimes these vary in different countries, and they vary from carrier to carrier. So if you see some variances, that could be what that's about. But I believe, if I recall rightly, we've actually updated this iPhone to version 4.04. Let's take a look at it so that we can make sure we're showing you the right stuff and giving you the right details. We have so many phones around the office. Okay, yes, we have updated this phone to 4.04 Android version, so it's upgraded to the latest version. Now, one of the cool things that came out with this 4.0 version is you have the ability to take this recent apps button, which used to be just recent apps, and you can turn it into a menu button. One of the things they left off the HTC One series is they didn't put a menu button on the face down here. So they built it into the software so you can access different menus in the software. But what they did is they made it so that you can use This button now, you can toggle it either to use for recent apps that you may have opened. Obviously I haven't opened any. And or you can use it for a menu button on different things when you're using those. So let's go and try that. We'll go to contacts, and I believe I've got it reprogrammed as a menu button. So you can see that here. Looks like we don't want to wait for that thing to do its bit. But basically it'll give you a menu button. Now with the OSs are very popular with two large groups of people. People love Apple, people love Android. With the OS on the iPhone, it's very simple in its format. Left to right, swipe, it's got a home button. It's also, you can create folders if you want, etc., etc. Search your phone, all that basic stuff. A lot of people do like the Android product because it gives them more customization as to what they can actually do with it. There's widgets, and as you can see here, you can create different plates, of course, much like you can on the iPhone, but different panels, and then in going into those panels, you can take and create different widgets, and in those widgets, you can make colorful things that will work on your panels. You can't really do that with the iOS system. Many people like this sort of customization feature that you can see here. I don't think we have any widgets that are programmed. There's the Google widget there that's search. For instance, this title here, the time is a widget. So people really like that, and being able to widgetize their software any way they want and take and change it. The new 4.04 update is really nice, where you can toggle this to be a menu item as opposed to just recent apps, and you can toggle it either way, where you can use it for both sort of things. You can double tap it for one, single tap it for the other. Pull down notification wise. Notifications, they both have different notifications, and the iPhone's actually starting to build in some widgets. On some of the phones you can install widgets into this area. It just depends on the maker and the phone. But people, tend to love one OS or another to their favorites. Of course, this is very Apple based with its setup and operations and what it sort of pushes at you. With the Android phone, it pushes a lot of Google products at you. So if you're very heavily into Google like I am, you might prefer this product. It's really up to you and what you feel is best for you. But we're going to go and benchmark the two of them. So on the front of both devices, we have your, on the iPhone, this is a face monitor that basically, if you put something up close to the face of the device, it will take and quit blowing, especially if you're on a call, it'll quit blowing the screen onto your face during a call. Basically, it's designed that when you're in a call, you put up your face, it won't blast you with the radio screen. The speaker, of course, here is at the top. They've moved the camera eye for the front-facing camera up to the top of this. Used to be off to the right, and then of course we have a home button here. On the back of the HTC One X, you can see that we have a speaker across the top. We have your front-facing camera. We have a back button. We have a home button, and we have recent apps button. As I described to you earlier, it's now also become a menu button. So here you can see the bottom of both devices and how they play out. You can see here that we have an earphone jack, a speaker, a small plug-in jack for charging and syncing, and more speakers. And across the bottom, I think there's one microphone hole that's here on the HTC One X. Let's go ahead and spin these around real quick so you can see them. And we'll go ahead and lock them in there. And what you can see here is we have a power button here on the iPhone, power button here on the One X. We have a earphone plug, and then a small microphone hole at the top. Coming down the left side of both devices, we have a switch on the iPhone for switching mute on and off. We also have buttons for a volume up and down. On the left-hand side of the HTC One X, it also has a plug-in for syncing and charging. One thing we should note, the HTC One product line actually has an adapter you can get that not only will charge the device, but also will hook it into an HDMI TV. It's a separate device you have to take and purchase, as well as the iPhone 5 has something similar to that with AirPlay. But you can plug this into a HDTV and get some experience that way. It's actually very cool from what we've seen of it. I think it's like $40 or $50 on amzn.to that you can take and get it. On the right-hand side of both devices, the iPhone 5 has got a little nano SIM card. It's actually a super small SIM card that they've taken and redesigned, much smaller than the SIM cards of prior use. The rocker switch, I don't know how I can see here, but it's a thin rocker switch on the HTC One X. One challenge I'll note, I'm right-handed and I usually hold the phone in my left hand and tend to grip it. I tend to turn the volume up and down on this phone more so than any other phone I've had. So that's one issue I run into it. Of course, I do have big 9-inch span hands and huge fingers, so that could be part of the problem. But definitely, look at that at your experience when you test out the phone. Here you can see the back of both devices, and on the back we actually have glued a special magnet that goes on the back so that we can attach different lenses, telescopic lenses, to the back of the iPhone 5. So normally this is clear, pretty, and white in this case, and you can see the silver inside of the camera eye. There's a small hole that they built in for recording audio when you're recording video, so that's really cool. They put that front forward. It also has a flash eye there, or a lamp if you're doing video. You can see it's got a nice kind of galvanized aluminum back. I'm not sure what metal it is exactly, but I like it so much better than the glass. It feels better and feels less fragile. On the back, bottom, and top, on either side, it has small plates of glass to make the antennas work just wonderfully. And that's pretty much it. With the HTC One X, you've got the camera eye, which is raised a bit. Not really excited about it because the camera eye isn't protected well. You definitely want to get a case as soon as you get this phone, because the way it curves and the way it hits in the back, it tends to drag a little bit. I'm actually also concerned about the iPhone camera. The way it's laid, it doesn't seem to have much of a high ridge as the prior ones did. So be sure. Sounds like I won the lottery here, Dennis, doesn't it? Okay, so obviously I just won the lottery and some casino. So what we have here is you have your camera eye, you have your flash, and then you have down the right side here, there's different sync things that you can plug these into that HTC makes, and basically this is designed to be a charging and sync attachment here where you don't have to plug it in necessarily, although you can if you like. But this sync thing is designed to slide into a special sync thing you can buy from HTC. There's a small speaker on the bottom here. Not real excited to have the speaker on the bottom, but it works. It does have Beats audio on this HTC. I love the Beats audio effect. It makes for great sound enhancement, makes your music sound really great. As soon as you plug an earphone into the plug, the Beats audio activate. You can deactivate it if you don't want to listen to it at that time, but it makes for great sound improvement, especially if you have the Beats audio equipment, headphones and earphones. Okay, so here are the benchmarks of the speed tests you can see from both devices. We ran these. Now we're of course going off the logs on these. We do have the Wi-Fi is actively running now. For those of you who point that on YouTube, these are past log results that we've used for both phones in testing AT&T system. You can see how well they downloaded data and processed it. We are finding the iPhone 5 is a monster for being able to download and upload data. Its faster processor and speeds and operating just gives it the ability to really push a lot up and down. So there you have it. Okay, so you can see the Geekbench 2 score that we took and got with both devices. The iPhone came in at 1538. The one came out at 1497. We've been seeing this pretty much consistent, where the iPhone has pretty much been beating just about everything except for from what we're hearing, the Galaxy S3 international version. Of course, the problem with that is we're also hearing that the Galaxy S3 version doesn't have 4G on it. So, I've been hearing that. I don't know that that's true, so take that with a grain of salt. You can look up the information or Google it on your own as that information develops. But we're hearing and seeing pretty consistent data that the iPhone is one of the fastest, if not the fastest, smartphone on the market. So you can see here the details. I mean, it definitely rock and rolled, slightly outbeat, and sometimes quite a bit outbeat the One X in its benchmark trials. Okay, so here we have the Passmark Performance Benchmark Test. You can see that the 5 came in at 3,500, the system came in at 2,193, the CPU came in at a massive 19,829. This is what we're talking about. The CPU in the iPhone 5 is incredible. 5424 for the One X. On the disk came in at 14,727. On the iPhone 5, 3298 on the disk test. Memory 2,229 against 2381, so the memory worked a little bit better on the read-write test. 2D graphics, we do notice this gets beat with the iPhone. Of course, the iPhone is running on higher retina display graphics, but 1471 2D and 2043 on the One X, and then 3D 1742 on the iPhone against the 3D graphics on the One X. So there you go. There's the benchmarking stats for that. Okay, so here you can see we've got, with the GL Benchmark 2.1.5 app, we've got 6,777 frames at 60 frames per second, the 5 processed, and with the One X, that processed 53 42 frames at 47 frames per second. The great thing about these benchmarking apps is you can take them and follow along at home as we do them, and you can see which ones are going to take and work best for you. This is the browser mark. Of course, we're testing out the browsers on both devices here. We're using the general browser that comes with the device. So you can see here the browser mark scores that have come from browser mark rightware. This, of course, tests how well the device in this browser serve up and download, upload, all that good stuff. You can see here the iPhone 5 came in with a score of 191,563, and the score on the Android was 1,001,563. So you can get an idea as to how well that worked. I don't know how much they're compared to other phones. Thing is working. Let's take a look at this. This was actually down a couple days, so it wasn't giving us very good output. So it looks like it's still having problems. Oh, there you can see some popular scores. It looks like I don't see any top phones that are on that list. Kind of interesting. They need to update that. Okay, so here we're looking at the SunSpider stats, and this once again is checking the browser for how well it can process and serve data and receive it and all that good stuff. The numbers you're looking at are for you want to be looking for lower number is the winner here because how much time it takes to process the data. The lower number is 896.9 milliseconds on the iPhone 5 and 1167.8 milliseconds on the HTC One X. Okay, folks, so we ran a speed test using the hotspot on the AT&T phone. So basically a hotspot server on the iPhone to go to the iPad 3 that we have that will give it a good speed test hotspot. You can see the numbers here. The numbers we did see tend to vary a bit. We saw 5s during the day. It's now the evening, so we're seeing stuff in the 9s and 10s. So your mileage, of course, will vary depending upon your location. So this is the hotspot test, and you can see the speed test of results we got from the iPhone 5. Okay, so now here we can see the hotspot server tests on the HTC One X. This is going to be the numbers where we have the HTC One X acting as a hotspot, and of course we're putting this through an iPad 3, which tends to pull a lot of really good data. So you can see the results here on the numbers. This is coming from, of course, the AT&T network with the phone acting as a hotspot. So you can see those numbers there. All right, so here you can see us. We're doing a Skype call between the iPhone 5 and Skype. This is across a localized network. You can see the results we're getting here. Pretty good front-facing camera. Great results so far. Not perfect, of course. The front-facing camera is only like 1.2. So there you go. But you can see how well it performs on a localized Wi-Fi and a Skype video call. Okay, so now what you're seeing is here we're doing a video call using Skype, the front-facing camera, and of course we're doing this on the AT&T network as opposed to using localized Wi-Fi. So it still comes out really good on the quality of the front-facing camera, and yeah, rocks it. Okay, so here's what we're testing here. What we're doing is we're testing the front-facing camera to see how well the front-facing camera broadcasts onto the iPad 3. You can see here it does fairly well on the left there on the iPad 3. We're mainly, like I said, testing how well this thing will broadcast an image. Now we're doing a Skype call, and this is over Wi-Fi, and so you can see how well that's broadcasting over Wi-Fi and give you an idea as to how good the front-facing camera works on phone calls. Okay, so now here's a test we're doing. We're doing the same type of Skype call with a front-facing camera test on the HTC One S, or X, excuse me, too many HTC Ones. But what we're doing here is we're showing you how well the image broadcasts of the front-facing camera in a situation. I believe we're locked up there. There we go. It's not coming through very well. This is, of course, running on a non-Wi-Fi, localized Wi-Fi. This is running across the AT&T network. So you're seeing how well the HTC One X can serve up the image from its front-facing camera to the iPad here on your left. So we're getting a lot of jerkiness and everything else. So there you have it. Okay, so let's start the camera. The camera has a lot of cool features. But it is very simple if you're used to an Android phone. Now, the shutter speed we notice is much faster, and of course loading everything is much faster. If you've got to take a quick photo, you're going to get to it a lot faster with the iPhone 5. Now, very simple format that they have with the iPhone 5, or most of the iPhones, if you're familiar with them. You have the grid, the HDR. Now, with iOS 6 on the 4S and 5, you now have a panorama version. We've used it a little bit, but I think there's still some apps that more people feel comfortable with in how they operate and how they work. There is the front and back, of course, changer. There's, of course, the switch between the photograph and the video. There's also the camera shutter button, if you will, and there's an area to get into your pictures. Let's take a look at the pictures. Now, it does take much better colored, it's an edge of better pictures over the 4 and 4S. Most definitely. Is it distinctive enough to go out and spend $700? I don't know. You have to add up all the elements of the iPhone 5. But the pictures are definitely improved with the quality of what they put into the optics and improvement. So I really do like the pictures better on the iPhone 5. You can see here some great colors that we're looking at. Now, they've also made some improvements in how well it deals in low light. You can see here a video that we're doing in a low light scenario that comes out really well, and of course that's one of the great things. This is actually a flash photo. You almost can't tell because it lights everything up, but this is a flash photo in a low light situation. Great colors, great detail. Here's a video. We usually use the floor of my video to see how it comes to the accuracy of color and the lines and everything. So you can see here it came out very well there. A little bit brighter than what the floor of my floor is, but you can see that it's much darker in this photo, but that's video for you. So it takes great, sharp, beautiful pictures, just amazing stuff. With the panorama version, of course, you have the edit ability to go up and edit. You can take out red eyes, you can take and crop, you can take and enhance the picture with colors, and you can also change and edit the photo to rotate it. In going into the panorama area, you basically click on it, and it gives you a thing where you basically move the iPhone continuously as you're going around and take photos, and it keeps track of where you're at. It's an okay panoramic app. I don't think I'd spend an extra $700 on this phone for it. Okay, so let's take a look at the HTC One X camera. It's a great camera, 8 megapixel on the back end. It's got a great viewing screen, that's the other thing, so it's easy to see what you're shooting at. Now, it has a lot of things that this Androids have, where they have a lot of customizable stuff that you can take and do here. You can see in the upper left-hand corner we can control the flash. We have settings where we can control all sorts of different settings: image resolution, video quality, review duration, image adjustments, ISOs. You have continuous shooting on this where you can pound out a whole ton of photos. You also have one where you have an auto review. One of these settings will take and make it so that you can take and shoot like 20 photos and choose which ones are best and automatically erase the ones you don't want. Really nice feature that's on here. You have scene settings. Now, these are pretty standard with a lot of Androids. Some have more than others. You can see the scene standards that you're going to have here that you can choose from, which are really nice. There's also this opaque circle that you can take and click on, and in do so you can get different effects. And what's really great about a lot of these effects is they'll pre-play through the device so that you can see how they're going to look as you take the picture, which is pretty nice for a lot of people. So that way you can kind of see the effect pre-hand, where with the iOS devices you have to do everything post-production. So you've got a shutter button right here, you've got your video button right here, you've got a zoom in and out right here, which is very nice. Really simple format. Let's take a look at some different pictures on the device. We'll flip through them. Now, the one thing you can see here is we take this picture in my kitchen, and one of the reasons we do is because one thing the HTC One series we noticed, it tends to jack up the yellow, blues, and greens, and it does so to give your videos and your photos more pop, which is kind of smart, but it's kind of software engineered, if you will, in my mind. That's my opinion. And what you find is that your photos do come out really pretty and really well. You can see here, I think this is a video of my dog here. There you go. So you can see the photos there. But one of the challenges you run into, especially with photos, is you run into a lot of yellow, blues, and greens when you get into high yellow environments. Now obviously my dog, you can see the difference between my dog being in that environment and changing the structure of the photo to where once the dog is gone and there's a lot of yellow, blues, or greens in the photo, they tend to really dominate and overtake the photos. It's not a big deal. You can adjust these in the ISO settings and other things, but it's one thing to be aware of, especially if you go into those environments. Does it make the camera bad? In no way, shape, or form. It's a great camera. It takes great photos. You can see here once again we got a lot of yellow coming in a yellow environment, which is very different than the one you can see with my dog. But it takes great photos. You can see very well the features of the floor, so you got that. Now, low light photos takes great low light photos. Look at this. This is a completely dark situation with the flash. Takes great photos. You can see immense detail on the bike, and of course the colors pop as well. Video-wise, it does a pretty good job. Video-wise, in low light situations, you can see here, you can see the colors fairly well. A little bit of darkness still when it comes down to it, but the colors pop. You've got accuracy that you can see in the video of the subject matter, and yeah, it does a great job that way. So definitely an awesome camera. I can't say anything bad about it other than the fact that initially you really love the yellow, blues, and greens feature that's jacked up on the phone, but if you do get into an environment, like I said, that has a high yellow, blue, and green environment, you want to take and dial your ISO settings and some of your exposure settings back a bit more. And of course you can do some of that in post-production if you want to too. But it's just good to be aware of. But in no way does it make it a bad camera. It's a great camera and great device. Okay, so that's pretty much wraps it up. I love both phones. I've really enjoyed both phones. I do love big screen phones. I can't get over it. But a lot of people tell me they don't like the size of them, especially women who usually like something that's a little bit more smaller to fit in their hands. So it's up to you as to what you feel is the phone for you. Both phones are with AT&T. Thank you, AT&T, for providing us the HTC One X phone so we can take and review it. And be sure to check out their website at amzn.to. We reviewed a ton of their phones across the chrisvossshow.com website and our YouTube channels. Be sure to check out all those reviews. And tell them Chris Voss sent you. AT&T, Chris Voss tested, Chris Voss approved. Be sure to check out the iPhone 5. You can, of course, find it from different vendors if you want. The HTC One X, we've really enjoyed. It's been a great phone. You can see some of the HTC One line across other phones that they have. And, of course, search AT&T.com's website for all the other cool phones that are out there. And make sure you subscribe to the chrisvossshow.com. Make sure you follow the chrisvossshow.com emails that we send out. Thank you for coming by.